It is 6 o'clock in the morning, and the alarm clock on your nightstand suddenly begins to buzz. The room is still dark. Before you are even fully conscious, your brain falls back on decades of ingrained habit. You throw the heavy blankets to the side, swing your legs over the edge of the mattress, and plant your feet firmly on the floor. You stand up immediately, determined to start the day with energy and purpose. But as you walk toward the bathroom, something feels wrong. Your vision blurs slightly at the edges. Your head feels strangely light, empty, floating for just a fraction of a second. Deep in your chest, you feel your heart hammering violently against your ribs, beating entirely too fast for a person who was sound asleep just 30 seconds ago. You grip the bathroom door frame to steady yourself, take a deep breath, and wait for the room to stop spinning. You tell yourself that you simply got up too fast. You splash some water on your face, walk to the kitchen to pour a cup of strong black coffee, and you push the incident completely out of your mind. You assume this is just what waking up feels like when you have a few miles on the odometer. I used to ignore that exact same hammering in my chest. My name is Harold Bennett. I am 81 years old. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, but I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a working-class neighborhood where your character was judged by how early and how fast you got out of bed. My father worked his entire life in a manufacturing plant. For him, the alarm clock was a starting pistol. You did not linger. You did not stretch. You hit the floor running because lingering in bed was a sign of weakness. I carried that exact same rigid discipline through my entire career in community health education and straight into my retirement. A few years ago, after my wife Margaret passed away, I was living alone in a quiet house. I wanted to make sure I did not fall into a rut of depression or laziness, so I became almost militant about my morning routine. When the alarm went off, I leaped out of bed. I drank a strong cup of coffee on an empty stomach to get my engine running. I even started finishing my morning shower with a blast of freezing cold water because I had read in a magazine that thermal shock was supposed to build your immune system and increase longevity. I thought I was being incredibly proactive. I thought I was building an ironclad foundation for my health. But one Tuesday morning, I jumped out of bed, took 3 steps toward the hallway, and the world completely dropped out from beneath me. The dizziness was so severe I had to drop to one knee on the carpet. My chest felt tight, and my heart was racing so erratically I thought it was going to tear itself out of my rib cage. I sat on the floor for 10 minutes, covered in a cold sweat, genuinely believing I was having a massive cardiovascular event. When my daughter Laura came down from Phoenix to check on me later that week, I confessed what had happened. Laura has been a registered nurse for decades, and she did not panic. She just looked at me with a tired, knowing expression. She got my son Daniel on the phone, who is a physical therapist in Denver and understands the mechanics of blood flow better than anyone I know. Together they explained a biological reality that completely shattered how I viewed my mornings. They told me I was not having a heart attack from bad genetics. I was actively triggering a cardiovascular collapse through my own sheer stubbornness. Daniel explained that the medical community refers to the hours right after waking up as the morning danger zone. I had always assumed that waking up was like flipping a light switch on the wall. The power is off, and then instantly the power is on. But Daniel told me to think about my body like a heavy diesel engine that has been sitting outside in an Ohio winter all night. When an engine sits in the freezing cold for 8 hours, the oil sinks to the bottom of the oil pan. It gets thick. It gets sluggish. The metal parts are cold and contracted. If you walk out to that car, turn the key, put it in gear, and immediately floor the gas pedal to get onto the highway, you are going to blow the engine. The machinery needs time for the oil to warm up, thin out, and circulate through the valves. When you sleep, your body goes into a deep state of conservation. When the alarm goes off, your brain dumps a massive load of stress hormones, specifically cortisol and adrenaline, into your bloodstream to wake you up. Your blood vessels naturally constrict. At the exact moment this chemical storm is happening, jumping immediately out of bed forces gravity to pull a liter of blood straight down into your legs. Your heart suddenly has no blood to pump to your brain. In a young person, the internal sensors catch this instantly and adjust. But when you are over 60, those sensors are rusty. They react slowly. The blood pressure drops violently, the brain starves for oxygen, and the heart panics, beating furiously to catch up. That is the dizziness. That is the hammering in the chest. It is an engine screaming for lubrication. But the physical movement was only the first mistake. Laura asked me what I was drinking when I woke up. I told her I drank my coffee. She shook her head and explained the second deadly error I was making. When you sleep for 8 hours, you are constantly exhaling water vapor and sweating. You are a closed system losing moisture. By the time you wake up, you are severely dehydrated. Your blood is no longer a fluid, easy-flowing liquid. It is thick and viscous, almost like honey. When your blood is that thick, the red blood cells and the platelets stick together. Thick blood is significantly harder for the heart to pump through the narrow pipes of your circulatory system, and it is dramatically more likely to form a fatal clot. I was waking up with thick, sticky blood, jumping out of bed to force a massive pressure drop, and then I was walking into the kitchen to pour strong, caffeinated coffee onto an empty stomach. Caffeine triggers the release of even more adrenaline. It forces a heart that is already struggling to pump sludge to suddenly work at maximum capacity. It was the biological equivalent of throwing high-octane racing fuel into a dry engine. It creates a massive, chaotic spike in blood pressure that can easily dislodge a piece of plaque in an artery. And then there was my foolish experiment with the cold showers. Daniel was absolutely furious when I told him about that. He explained that extreme thermal shock causes thousands of tiny blood vessels in your skin to slam shut instantly to preserve body heat. It is like closing all the relief valves on a pressurized water main at the exact same time. The pressure inside the main system explodes. For a heart that has been working for 80 years, suddenly having to push against that massive instant resistance can cause the electrical system of the heart to completely short circuit. It causes an arrhythmia that can drop a healthy man dead on his own bathroom floor. I was torturing my own plumbing system because I thought it made me tough. I had to unlearn 50 years of morning habits. I realized that true discipline is not about punishing the machine. It is about respecting the design of the machinery. I worked with Laura and Daniel to establish a new, non-negotiable routine. It only takes 5 minutes, but it completely transformed the physical reality of my mornings. The new routine starts the moment the alarm clock rings. I do not throw the covers off. I stay flat on my back. I keep my eyes open, and I just breathe deeply through my nose for 1 full minute. I am consciously telling my nervous system that there is no fire, there is no emergency, and we do not need to dump adrenaline into the blood. The second step happens right there in bed. Every night before I go to sleep, I place a large glass of room temperature water on my nightstand. Before my feet ever touch the floor, I drink the entire glass. I do not sip it, I drink it steadily. This is the most crucial mechanical repair of the entire day. That water goes straight into the digestive system and immediately begins thinning out the thick, viscous blood. It is literally pouring fresh oil back into the dry engine before asking the engine to do any work. After I finish the water, I roll over and sit up slowly on the edge of the mattress. I stay sitting there for a full 60 seconds. I do not stand. While I'm sitting, I gently roll my ankles in circles. Daniel taught me this trick. The calf muscles act as a secondary heart for the human body. By rolling the ankles and flexing the calves, you physically pump the pooled blood out of your lower legs and push it back up toward the chest. You are priming the pump. In the 4th minute, I do some slow, deliberate movement while still sitting. I turn my head from side to side. I lift my shoulders and let them drop. I am opening up the stiff, cold pipes of the circulatory system smoothly and gently, allowing the freshly thinned blood to navigate the pathways without meeting any violent resistance. Only in the 5th minute do I finally stand up, and I stand up slowly. I pause for a few seconds to ensure the room is absolutely still. There is no head rush. There is no dizziness. There is no frantic hammering in my chest. The transition is completely seamless. I walk to the kitchen and I make sure I eat a piece of toast or a small bowl of oatmeal before I ever touch a drop of coffee. I put a buffer in my stomach so the caffeine absorbs slowly and does not shock my nervous system. And I completely abandon the cold showers. I take a warm, comfortable shower that opens the blood vessels instead of slamming them shut. It took a few weeks for this routine to feel natural. It felt strange to move so deliberately when I was used to rushing. But the changes in my physical health were undeniable. The heavy, frightening palpitations disappeared completely. The lingering morning fatigue vanished because my heart was no longer exhausting itself just trying to get me out of the bedroom. I felt stable, grounded, and genuinely awake. After 60, you can no longer afford to treat your body like an indestructible machine that owes you a flawless performance. You cannot force an aging cardiovascular system to violently shift from deep rest to maximum output in a matter of seconds. The machinery has served you well for decades, but the tolerances are tighter now. The pipes are a little less flexible. The sensors take a little longer to react. You do not have to accept morning dizziness as a normal part of aging. You do not have to live with the fear of falling in your own hallway. You simply have to respect the physiological transition of waking up. You have to stop demanding that your engine run on dry, thick sludge. Independence is not protected by being tough or acting like you are still 30 years old. Independence is protected by understanding the vulnerabilities of your own body and making the quiet, intelligent adjustments to support it. It is protected by a glass of water on a nightstand. It is protected by sitting on the edge of the bed for 60 seconds. Your heart has beaten for you every single minute of every single day of your life without ever asking for a break. It has pushed millions of gallons of blood through your chest to keep you alive. The absolute least you can do is give it 5 gentle minutes in the morning to catch its breath before you ask it to carry you through another day. Do not rush the engine. Give it the oil it needs. I am Harold Bennett. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.